severe. I think, what did Dean Miguel say the other day that about factions and...
Well, Dean Miles not a member of the Labor Party and he ain't coming back.
Well, that's interesting, Paul. You obviously have a lot of sway to be able to make that comment.
Can I just jump in and ask, Paul, that is a good point that's being made. We saw Graham Richardson this morning basically doing a damage control piece in The Australian, suggesting that if the knives are to be wielded at any time in the Labor Party, they should be wielded in the direction of those in Kevin Rudd's camp, who he blames for giving away so much of the advantage during the campaign with the leaks.
Tony, it is 9:10. I have not given up hope that Labor will not be able to form a government, and I don't think anyone in the Labor Party right now is thinking about recriminations or anything along those lines. This was always going to be a tough election. We saw that every first-term government has always struggled to maintain their majority once they go face the polls. We saw that in '98 with Howard. We saw it in '84 with Hawke. This was always going to go down to the wire. It looks like all eyes are on WA at the moment. But if you look at the primary vote of the Greens and you look at the primary vote of the Labor Party, definitely Australia has voted left of centre tonight. That is a good victory. Well, that is a big defeat for the Liberal Party, that they haven't been able to convince the majority of Australians to support.
So, Connie, you were in a winning position. I mean, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, and here you are, you're at this point. You have squandered the goodwill of the Australian public. You have politically assassinated a leader. 5 weeks ago, you'd lost your way.
Okay. I'd like to get you to respond to that, but you might have to wait, because we're going to have to leave you both there, and you can continue that debate off camera for a little while. And we'll just throw back to Kerry.
And in a situation... Oh. And in a situation where this nation is on a knife edge in terms of the future government of this country and the increasing likelihood of a hung parliament, this is a good time as any, to take a look at the national picture, the swing across the nation, and with 64% of the vote counted, you're looking at two figures that tell the story. There's been a 3% swing nationally against Labor towards the Liberals. Labor has 49.7% of the two-party preferred vote. The Liberal coalition, Liberal National Coalition, 50.3%. And we're going to cross to Lee Sales to take a closer look at how that breaks down.
Thanks, Kerry. To recap, for viewers who might be joining us, at this stage neither Labor nor the Coalition can find the numbers to form a majority government. There's been a very big swing against Labor in Queensland and a substantial but not quite so large anti-Labor swing in New South Wales. In other states, though, things are going a little bit better for Labor. Western Australian results are just starting to come in. Let's have a look at how the seats are playing at the moment. Labor has 71 seats. They have lost 11 seats. The Coalition with 66 seats, having picked up 9. The Greens have 1 seat that we were hearing about earlier in Melbourne, and the others and independents, minor parties, have 4. There's a gain of 1 that we're counting there in Tasmania. Let's take a look at the primary vote. We can see Labor sitting on 38.1% of the primary vote, the Coalition on 43.7%, the Greens at about 11.6%, and minor parties and others at about 6.6%. How does that compare to 2007? Let's take a look at the swings. Labor is experiencing a 5.3% swing against it. The Coalition, a 1.5% swing in its favour. The Greens would be pleased with a 3.9% swing to them, allowing them to pick up, as I said, that seat in Melbourne. And the minor parties and independents, 0.1% swing away from them. The chamber graphic, how is it looking at this time of the night? Seats 1, Labor 71, the Coalition 66. The Greens now have 1 seat in the House of Representatives, and independents 4. We're going to have 4 in the House of Reps. That's with about 65% of the vote counted. If we switch to have a look at the likely graphic, the seats that we factor in that the parties are expected to hold on to, the ALP 71, the Coalition 68, the Greens 1, independents and others 4. As we've been hearing, if Labor wants to make up its losses in Queensland and New South Wales, it needs to pick up seats in South Australia and Victoria. And the results in those states are certainly different to the numbers those states are certainly different to the numbers we've been seeing out of Queensland and New South Wales. Let's have a quick whip around some of the Victorian seats. Corangamite, with about 70% of the vote counted there, it looks like Labor is going to retain that seat. I think there was just the tiniest swing to Labor there, which isn't even showing up on our computer, but Darren Cheeseman will hold on to that. The seat of Aston, where Chris Pearce, the sitting Liberal MP, is retiring. There's been a 3.2% swing to Labor there. Not enough for Labor to win the seat. It looks like Alan Tudge, who's succeeding Chris Pearce, he's a lawyer, will hold on to that seat for the Liberal Party. In McEwen, Fran Bailey, the sitting Liberal MP, is retiring. If we've got the McEwen graphic. She's retiring. It's a region badly affected by the Black Saturday bushfires, and it looks like Labor is going to pick up that seat with a 5.5% swing to the ALP. This is what I'm talking about the results in Victoria being very different to those in Queensland and New South Wales. Latrobe, a seat in Melbourne's outer east. There's another small swing there to Labor, a 1.4% swing. Our computer is predicting that Laura Smythe will hold on to that seat. That's with almost 3/4 of the vote counted there. Now, South Australia has seen a big swing to the Greens, and of course on preferences that will go back to Labor. So if we needed more evidence, it's very much a state-by-state, seat-by-seat election, and of course the closeness of everything only whets the appetite to see some more numbers out of Western Australia.
State by state and seat by seat, that's certainly the case, but the state that is now coming into play and that everyone is going to be watching over the next half hour to hour, possibly longer, is Western Australia. Anthony, we've got, I'm not quite sure how much we've got of the vote counted there yet, but...
What we're seeing overall in Western Australia is a swing of 1.7% to the Liberals in Western Australia. These are 14%. There's a fair number of votes from places like O'Connor and Durack outside of Perth at this stage. But that's indicating that Labor might lose seats. So let's have a look at some of the individual electorates.
OK, we're going to start with the seat of Hasluck. This is in eastern Perth. This was picked up by Sharon Jackson for the Labor Party in 2007. It's on a margin of 0.8%, and we've got 10.6% of the vote counted. This is a critical seat.
It could well be a critical result for this election. This is a seat Labor desperately needs to hang on to. Ken Wyatt, if elected, would be the first Indigenous member of the House of Representatives. Sharon Jackson was first elected in 2001, lost in 2004, and has been re-elected in 2007. We're factoring in that's only one booth, unfortunately, for that preference count, indicating a 0.4% swing to the Liberal Party. But on the primary votes I've got, there's no swing to the Liberals on the primary votes, which is a good first set of results for Labor. We can't call Hasluck. We'll be coming back to that a bit through the night. But we haven't got any better figures on Hasluck. Hasluck we'll be coming back to. OK, now the seat of Swan, another critical seat. This has a sitting Liberal member in Steve Irons, but it's been redistributed and it's now, on paper, a Labor seat with a margin of 0.3%. Now, we've had 9.2% of the vote counted and we've got a different story. Yeah, this is a seat that if Steve Irons has done his work, he should be able to do well in the areas added to the electorate. He's ahead on the first preference votes. He's got a slight increase in his first preference vote. Labor's vote's down about 4% on the first preference vote. That's translating into a 2.4% swing to the Liberals. At this stage, we haven't got enough of a count to give that seat away, but Steve Irons is ahead at this stage, which is where he'd want to be. OK, the seat of Stirling in Perth's northern suburbs. This is held by Michael Keenan since 2004. It's on a 1.3% margin for the Liberal Nats, with 22% of the vote counted. And I'm seeing a very strange swing. Michael Keenan's well ahead on these first preference votes. And you've got to really look where these figures come from. Doubleview, Karrinyup, Yokine, Balcatta, Joondalup. We haven't got any of the booths from east of the Mitchell Freeway there yet. And we're factoring in at this stage, when we look at the preferences, a swing of 5% to Labor.
That can't be right.
It is an electorate with two distinct ends.
Yeah, but there's something. We need to come back to that. There's something not quite right.
OK, so big question mark about those figures.
Those figures have not been right for a while. So as I've said, upset victory. So I'm not quite sure that's correct.
Okay, we'll have a very quick look at Perth. Now, this is Stephen Smith's own seat. He's held it since 1993. The inner suburbs of Perth, he had a margin of 7.9%. Stephen, you've lost 2%. You've lost 2% of your vote.
Well, I thought about 1 to 2%. It might end up being a bit bigger than that. There've been 4 to 5% swings against me to my west, which is the Stirling border. What I really need to see is a big booth in the northeast, because that abuts Hasluck in Beachborough. That would give us a good guide to Hasluck. But,
just very quickly, before we move on, very quickly, what did you make of the Hasluck figures?
If I had to snap now, I'd say that young Tim Hammond has done very well in Swan, but not quite got there. That Jackson would just hang on, a couple of hundred, 300-400 votes in Hasluck, and Alana has done very well in Canning, but might just fall short. But that's, if I had to snap now, I don't want to snap now. I'm very encouraged by Hasluck because she's a good local member. So what we need to see in Hasluck is a big booth in from Midland, which is not yet in.
Okay, now we're going to take a quick look at the seat of... No,
we'll continue.
You're going to talk through Perth.
We have to go through Perth before
quickly,
we can do this next. Bennelong, Stephen Smith, well ahead there in Perth, well, just ahead in Perth. 16% with the Greens, which we believe will get Stephen well over the line. If you look at the preferences here, a 2% swing to the Liberal Party. But Stephen, this is one of the safest seats for Labor in Western Australia. So Stephen Smith, the Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister, has been returned as the member for Perth.
He wants one quick last word.
The preference flow has been very strong, so that's a good sign, particularly for Swan, but also for parts of Hasluck, which go up into the hills.
The preference flow
from
strong
the Greens,
for you?
From the Greens, yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a look at the seat of Bennelong, because we've got Maxine McHugh standing by. This is Sydney's northwest suburbs. Maxine won this in 2007 as a margin of 1.4%, but she's lost the seat.
Yeah, the figures is quite clear cut in the end. John Alexander well ahead when we look at the percentages. He's got 49% of the vote. Labor with Maxine McHugh 37. The Greens have got 7.8, so they haven't done quite well in that electorate. When you factor in the preferences and where the booths are from, it's a 5.2% swing, a Liberal gain, and John Alexander, former professional tennis player and television commentator, is a new member for Bennelong.
And Maxine McHugh joins me now from Bennelong. Maxine, you've got a place in history as the second Australian to take a seat from a Prime Minister. But again, you've lasted one term. How are you feeling about this right now?
Not a good night, Kerry, and in the end we could not withstand this kind of swing. As you've just said, I was on 1.4%, and it was very interesting. We had 11 candidates on the ballot. I'm told actually that all candidates, the vote has really gone everywhere. Christian Democrats got higher votes in particular booths, things like this. We have also had a very high informal vote in some areas, which actually suggests a pox on both your houses.
Now, how do you read it? How do you read it, considering the campaign that you've watched being run across the nation while you've conducted your campaign within Bennelong? What do you have to say about the nature of the national campaign, the quality of the national campaign, and how it's affected you?
Kerry, there are some very big questions for the Labor Party, given what has happened tonight. We shouldn't be on a knife edge tonight, and we shouldn't be losing colleagues all over the country. I couldn't help but think today, as I was out on booths that I was on in 2007, the difference between the hope and the joy and the great expectations that we generated 3 years ago, and I guess the sullenness among many voters. I think we have been a good government, but clearly not good enough. Now, your question was about the national campaign. I would argue that I'd still be the member for Bennelong tonight if we had run the same kind of professional, targeted, clear, disciplined campaign that we ran in 2007. Now, clearly, this national campaign has left a lot to be desired.
There was one moment in the campaign when Julia Gillard announced that Labor would commit to $2.5 billion in funding for the Parramatta to Epping railway line, Epping in